Google Sheets class, Google Sheets for teachers and for educators. This first lesson is going to be about basic formatting. I really think that being able to navigate and format and organize your information in a very easy and viewable way will help you later on as you're adding formulas and sorting and doing lots of the more advanced things. So today we're going to keep it very, very simple. I am going to work through the basic formatting spreadsheet, and then it is also your first assignment as a Google Sheet that I've given you. So you can do this with me if you have a way to view the video and work on your Google Sheet at the same time. Or after you finish watching the video, you're welcome to go and then do the updates to this same exact basic formatting spreadsheet that you have access to. So we're just going to look through and learn some of the very basics features today, and hopefully you pick up a tip or trick that you haven't heard about with Google Sheets. So this is just fake information that I made up for 10 students. It looks like I have 10 students here, some dates, some treats, and some information maybe about how they get home. And so we are going to real quickly see that some of my columns aren't the right size. You can see that some of my dates are getting cut off. This person that likes Sour Patch Kids, you can't see the rest of that word. So the first thing I would do before I even got started formatting this at all would be to stretch out those column widths. And if I do that by going between like the C and the D column, oh, that's one thing too. The C, the letters are columns. So I will refer to that all the time. If I'm talking about a column, that will always be the C column, D column, E, and it goes on and on and on. And then the numbers are your rows. And so that is how we kind of navigate through Google Sheets. And then once you click inside of one of these boxes, that's a cell. And so that cell is actually going to be labeled E and then 5. And you can see that it's selected here with the blue around it. And you can see that E5 is a selected cell up there as well. So that's kind of how the verbiage is when we're working in a spreadsheet. And so I want to go back and talk about the columns. I can stretch out like the C column. I could just stretch it out myself. And that's one way you can do it. And then the other way that I like to do a lot is double click between any of the columns, and that will auto width your column. And so if I have text in here and I double click between the B and the C, it's going to auto fit to the longest piece of information. And so now I have to do that for every column. So a quicker way to do that would be to select all of my information and do that double click so it does all the columns at the same time. So this button right here I will utilize a lot when it comes to changing everything on my spreadsheet. This option or button allows me to select everything on my spreadsheet. And then I'm going to come back between these cell columns and I'm going to double click again. And then that's going to fit every column on my page to the width of what the information is in there. It will not keep them all the same size. They will be different based on their content. Now with them all selected, if you did want every column to be the exact same size, you could decrease or increase your column width using that bar between. And then because you have them all selected right now, they will all change to be the size that you have that you drag that one column to. So that's something to think about, whether or not you want them to be all the exact same column size, which we'll utilize a lot when you're making layouts and different things, or if you want to double click and get everything to fit to its content. I'm going to utilize that for this. And so now I can see all of my information, and I notice right away something that's missing. I see that these are students. These are some sort of dates, treats, and what they're going to do maybe after school, but there's no title to tell me what that's doing. So a lot of times when we have data, we forget to label or title each of our columns. And that's something important to do when you're working with data or just any type of chart of information. So I want where row 3 is to have a new row above that so that I can title each of these columns. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to go to insert row above. And so now I can give each of these columns a title. So these are my students. I'm going to assume these are birthdays, their favorite treats, and then maybe how they're getting home or how they're going, where they're going after school. And so those are now allowing me to see what all that information is underneath it. And so we can now look and say, okay, what else are something that we want to do with those titles? And probably what I would like to do is maybe make them a little bit more distinctive and maybe make them bold. So our normal formatting that you have for a lot of different, Google Docs, Google Sheets is all right up here. You can see your font size, you can see that you have the bold and the italics. And so I'm going to hit bold here, and then I can already see that my titles are standing out a little bit more. So that's something that you can do to kind of make your information titles break away from your information. Another thing that I have up here is I have my titles for, my classroom and what semester this was for. And so I want that to be centered across my piece of information here. So I would need to select more than one column, and then I can merge them together. And I want to make sure when I'm doing that, I have my black cursor. Right now my cursor is black. If I go to select information, I want to get the black cursor and then drag across. And now I have A1 through D1 selected. If I were to have that information and have a white hand, which happens to a lot of people, if you struggle moving or navigating in Google Sheets, this is probably your issue. If you have the white hand, that will not create a selection. That's going to move your information to a new cell. So those are two pieces of information to think about. The black cursor is going to allow you to select a range of cells, where that white hand is going to allow you to move information around. I'm going to go back and I'm going to select those same cells again. And now I want those cells to be kind of united as one large cell so I can center my title across the top. And so that's this button right here. This is called Merge Cells. And so I can click that here. And then I also think if you go down here and right click, you also have the option to merge cells. Oh, I'm not seeing it there. I am wrong. So I want to go ahead and use that merge cell piece of information right there. And then it doesn't automatically center it. So I'm going to go over here to my alignment, and then I'm going to center my title across all of those. I'm going to do that same thing for this kind of semester that I'm in. So I'm going to merge those cells to be one cell now, and then I'm going to center it in there. And this is something that you can undo. So if I don't want that to be merged anymore, if I hit that same button again, it will unmerge them and bring it back to the 4 separate columns that it was before. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that merged, and I can see that I have my titles, and then now I have all of my information. Well, I've centered my titles, but I haven't done any centering of this information. So again, I'm going to use my black cursor and click and drag and select all of that information, and then I'm going to center that information within my columns. So that's kind of a nice way to see the different columns. Another thing that people don't know about with Google Sheets is these dates. I can format them to be a different format. So these all look like, May 1st, April 20th. Well, if I would prefer it to be like 04/20/2000, I can do that. And so I can highlight all of these dates and go up to Format, Number, and then I have the date option here. If I click this one, it's going to change how those are formatted, and I can click that one and they'll go and be formatted that way. I can go back to that same option, Format, and then Number, and if I scroll down, I can see, okay, there is the layout that I had before. So that's something to remember if you like the words of the month or you'd prefer the numbers. I kind of like the numbers because it keeps everything the same kind of width. It's, it doesn't move around as much, but that's something to think about as far as what you want your dates or information to look like. A couple other things, let's look at font here. And so I'm going to highlight all of my information, and one quick way to update the overall look of your data would be to get rid of the default font and try and change it to something a little bit, more modern or different. So I'm going to change it just to this Montserrat font, and then I can see that my sizes are a little big now. And so I might decrease my size, or if I wanted to increase my size, I could use that same trick as far as making sure my columns are the right width again. I could double click, and then it's going to resize my columns for me. So that's something that you can do there. Something that I like to do with my titles is make them a little bit bigger up and down. So I can drag between the 1 and the 2, and I can drag my title to have a little bit more room here. And then I want to show you how you can center this information to be not only centered going across, but also up and down. So I'm going to make my title a little bit bigger and then I want it to be centered in the middle going up and down. And so I'm going to come over here. There's my regular center going across horizontally. This option right here is going to allow me to center it in the middle up and down vertically of my cell. That's something I utilize a lot that not a lot of people know about. And so you can see that that information is centered going up and down. So very simple information for this lesson. I just want you to see how you can move around, change some different cells, and be able to vertically align your information.